Was Jeremy Corbyn's bow at the Remembrance Day parade on Sunday really that insufficient and disrespectful, or are certain factions of the media using any excuse to bully him?
Paris, what do you think?
I don't know, really. I just think, you know, let's face it, Margaret Thatcher, Tony Blair, we've had some right nutters running the country over the past 30 years, haven't we? Jeremy Corbyn stands for peace. He stands for people. He stands for a fairer and more equal society. Do I believe everything that he stands for? No. Do I think he's got all the answers? No. But there's no doubt now that he represents a different way of doing things. And I think that's clear from the fact that there are clearly certain people and institutions with vested interest in maintaining the status quo who really don't like Jeremy Corbyn. So whatever you think of him,
the Labour Party.
Well, yeah, quite. And I do actually think he should be more pragmatic, actually. I'm probably more New Labour than Jeremy Corbyn. If I got invited to a Privy Council meeting, I'd go. I think the Queen would probably have nice tea and cakes and things. So I'd go and have a laugh. But I think we've got a question now, haven't we? You know, we can either keep voting in the same people and getting the same sort of people and getting the same sort of outcomes, or we could try something different. And I don't know. I just think Jeremy Corbyn, it seems like a nice man. He seems like the kind of teacher everybody takes the mick out of when you first start school, and then by the end of it, everybody loves him. So I don't know. I don't know. I think he's had a rough
So,
deal.
Mr. Powell, is he being bullied?
Well, look, I think
bullied by the Labour Party, perhaps, rather than by the press.
Well, no, I think the first thing to remember is what Remembrance Sunday is all about. It's a time that we pay our respects to those who gave their lives for their country, for our country, and who fought for freedoms around the world and lost their life in so doing. And we should never forget what Remembrance Sunday is about. And I think for a national newspaper to politicise such an event in the way that they did with their front page on Monday was frankly despicable. And I think the people who disrespected the veterans on Remembrance Sunday was the Sun newspaper and the Sun journalists when they decided to put together that front page on Sunday afternoon.
Stig, your newspaper's quote was, "Pacifist Corbyn refuses to bow. Nod in thy name."
Nod in my name, yeah.
Nod in my name.
Yeah.
Is that bullying?
Well, I don't think it's bullying. I mean, the story erupted because two Labour MPs immediately talked about their view of Jeremy Corbyn. Graham Jones and Simon Danczuk came out in public and saying they were concerned he didn't show sufficient respect. So it was a story. People were talking about it. And you may well take the view, it's a perfectly understandable view, that what he did was fine. And yet people were making the opposite view, saying it wasn't sufficiently respectful. And the problem Jeremy Corbyn has is the reason people are scrutinising him is because he's got perfect credentials to be an anti-establishment figure, as Paris says, and that puts him into a very difficult position when he seeks to become part of the establishment. He doesn't believe in the monarchy. He doesn't believe in the army. He doesn't believe in a deterrent in terms of tridents. He believes that the death of Osama bin Laden was a tragedy. He's got perfectly right to have those beliefs, and he can intellectually argue for them.
Not actually what he said.
But the point is, the reason people are scrutinising him and talking about him, including members of his own party, is because of the stances that he's taken. So you might well take the view what he did was perfectly fine and the way he conducted himself was fine, and that's an absolutely legitimate view to have. The fact of the matter is, Labour MPs on that day didn't take that view. And when Labour MPs woke up in the morning, they were concerned about whether or not he would show sufficient respect to the military and to our war dead. That's an extraordinary position for a Labour leader to find himself in.
OK. You, sir.
I'd just like to say that it's not a case of bullying, it's a case of respect. I noticed it on TV compared to everyone else that was doing a decent bow. And even I sort of nod and bow when I see a hearse go by on a daily basis. And I just agree with the lady. It's not bullying at all.
OK. And what about you up there on the gangway? Yes.
Hi, sorry.
Right.
You make this point about not sufficiently respectful. Respect is a personal thing. Respect isn't something that you should have to bow down to some sort of almighty respectometer. Respect should be a total personal feeling. Jeremy Corbyn thinks he respected sufficiently. That's fine by me.
OK. And the woman at the very back. In the back row. And then I come to you. Yes.
Me?
Yes?
I wonder why it wasn't covered, the fact that he stayed behind to the end of the procession, didn't go in for a meal with all the other dignitaries to talk to the veterans. He sent a handwritten wreath, which was very personal, and then he went on to his own constituency to attend another memorial service.
Do you think he's being bullied, is the point? I mean, it's this...
I think he's been vilified, he's been bullied, and the Murdoch press is trying to indoctrinate the rest of the country into electing another Conservative.
OK. I'll come to you. I'll come to you first in red here, the woman in the front row, second row.
I'd like to put it to Stig, who works for The Sun. How respectful are you to people in general? I mean, for instance, that photograph of him at the cenotaph, bowing his head, right next to it is a picture of a scantily dressed woman. How respectful is that?
Can I just say?
Yeah.
Can I just say? I think it might have gone so far in the other direction now that these people who are attacking him might actually be doing Corbyn a favour, because if there's one thing that we like in this country, it's an underdog, and there's no doubt now that he's been piled up upon. So I think it'll be very interesting to see what the effect of all of this stick he's been getting will be.
Paul Nuttall.
Well, I missed the bow. I was at the Cenotaph in Liverpool at the Remembrance Service, and I've also missed it because, obviously, you can guess from my accent, I'm from Liverpool, and you very rarely see the sun, so for obvious reasons. Look, this is just a total non-story. Let's be frank about all this. You know, it's whether he bows or not is unimportant. As far as I'm concerned, you know, I think there's far more worrying things about Jeremy Corbyn, and that's his views on the IRA, his views on Hezbollah and Hamas, wanting to give the Falklands back to Argentina. You know, to have General Houghton come out on the Marr show on Sunday and said that he would be worried if Jeremy Corbyn become Prime Minister, do you know what? So would I, because he would leave us without a nuclear deterrent and not allow us to sit at the top table in the world.
Just, Sajid, I'll come to you, but Lucy, just before can we just pick up that point? It was a rather curious moment, because Sir Nicholas Horton said he was worried, and Jeremy Corbyn said this was quite improper for a general to say this. And then Labour's own Shadow Defence Secretary, Marie Eagle, said, oh, no, I think he was absolutely fine to say that. And she believes it, you know, it's a curious party which is so divided on such a serious issue.
Actually, that's not quite the sequence of event that happened. I think Maria responded first, and she was on the same TV programme that he was. But look, I think that I don't happen to share the same view as Jeremy Corbyn about the maintenance of our nuclear deterrent. I think it's important that we continue to have that. But I absolutely defend his right to open up a debate about it. He is a politician. It is not for the Chief of the Defence Staff and the Head of the Army to go on national television and talk about Jeremy Corbyn's suitability as Prime Minister or policy discussions about nuclear deterrent. It's the chief. It's the chief because we live in an
in the country to
no. We live in an elected democracy where the people decide through their elected politicians what our policies are about whether we go to war, about what capabilities we need, and what our policies are. It is for the Chief of the Defence Staff to carry out those policies.
Is it for you a deal breaker whether Jeremy Corbyn would, were he to become Prime Minister, activate or say he would not be prepared to say whether he'd use a deterrent or not? Are you indifferent to the issue?
I'm not indifferent to the issue, of course not. It's an incredibly important issue, and it's
Which side are you on this?
Well, I've just said
You're in
that.
favour of having the deterrent?
I am, yes.
So how can you be in a party led by somebody who is?
Well, the vast majority of Labour MPs share my view as well. So, and we just.
So how, I'm sorry, just a perfectly obvious point, but how do you go into an election with a leader who says he's not in favour of nuclear deterrence and a party, majority of whom says they are?
Well, we're about to engage in a debate, not just with ourselves, but with the wider public. And I actually think that's an important debate to have. It's not one that we've had.
You were elected on a pro-Trident mandate. When you were elected a couple of, not that long ago, you said, as a party, we believe in the Trident deterrent. And now you're a party whose leader says it's not. So it's not about a debate. You were elected on one set of beliefs, and you're now moving away from it, or your leader is, and that's an extraordinary position for the Labour Party.
But it's popular. The Labour Party membership has doubled since the general election. So, you know, what can you do? People support him and people support his policies, and we can't ignore it. You've got to respect the fact that he's really popular and he's principled, whether or not you agree with him or not.
So, Sajid Javid, popular and principled.
Okay, just on the point about the general, I mean, generals shouldn't be involved publicly in politics, of course not, but this general wasn't. He was making a factual point. He was pointing out that our deterrent works for us every second of every hour of every day by deterring. And if you have someone, if you have someone who wants to be Prime Minister, remember Jeremy Corbyn is the alternative Prime Minister, that's what he is, so he should be scrutinised. If you have someone that says, I would never press the button under any circumstances, it's not a credible deterrent, it's not a deterrent anymore. And that's the factual point.
But you say that... No, but hang on, wait a minute. The Chief of Defence Staff, by saying what he said, it would worry me if that thought was translated into power, i.e. I wouldn't use the deterrent, is interfering in politics. Because
it's not.
Because Jeremy Corbyn is saying...
He's asked a question about if there is someone that says, I'll never press the button, what happens? And his answer is that it means it's no longer a deterrent. From that point on, it is no longer a deterrent, because it won't deter anyone.
But you're not
saying there needs to be a credible threat.
Hang on.
You're not saying there can't be a government. You're not saying there can't be a government that wins an election on a unilateral disarmament.
No, of course, if that's what the British people vote for, of course, that's up to them. And he's not saying that. He wasn't saying that.
I know, but the point is, it wasn't a hypothetical debate that he was having. This is a live issue because Jeremy Corbyn has set out a position. And so he was wading into that debate and that political debate. There was no question of that. It was a clumsy intervention into politics, which is not what he should be doing. He's the Chief of Defence.
It wasn't.
We are not an army-run country.
It was one of our most decorated generals answering a factual question. That's what it was.
He was wading into
in politics.
Duty of the army
can I just answer the original question?
To protect the people.
Yes,
and therefore I'd be concerned if
Can you remember the original question?
I think I can
Is he
remember
being bullied, is the point, by the press?
So there's a lot of things, as you've just seen, that I don't like about Jeremy Corbyn's views, but the bow in question, I think it was absolutely fine. I saw the bow. I didn't think there was any problem with it whatsoever. In fact, this week, we've also heard people talk about, is he going to kneel in front of the Queen? Is that disrespectful? You know, I went in front of the Queen a year or so ago when I was lucky enough to be invited to join the Privy Council. I never thought in my life as a child I'd ever get to meet the Queen, let alone get to join the Privy Council. So I kissed her hand, I kneeled, I almost fainted by just seeing her. I was so excited. But if someone else wants to show that respect in a different way, it doesn't really matter, as long as they're respectful. So lots of things I might not like about Jeremy Corbyn, but he's a respectful man.
Okay. One at the very back there.
I don't think I would say this very often, but I wholeheartedly agree with Richard Dawkins in what he said about the Sun headline being absolutely scandalous and shameful. And I find it so disingenuous to hear Stig try to defend the position of the Sun around that nod.
Okay. And you say that in yellow at the back there, in the yellow shirt, with the hat on.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
If you're going back to disrespect during the actual procession, the actual proceedings, David Cameron had a copy photoshopped onto him earlier in the day, and Boris Johnson was caught talking during the minute's silence.
Both of those things were widely reported. I think that's right. People.
But it wasn't widely reported in the same way that you widely reported Jeremy Corbyn. What a nasty person he is. It's a horrible way to treat a person, and it's not just the Sun. There's a great many of the national newspapers. Listen, pal, I'm speaking. Shut up. Right.
I don't think you can tell a panel member to shut up, but just finish your point.
The fact is that it's not just the Sun, it's the whole of the Murdoch empire who's taken against Jeremy Corbyn, and it's unfair, and it's bullying, and if it happened in the school playground, if it happened in the street, you'd be arrested.
OK. A brief answer, Stig, to that, and then we're gone.
Well, again, you say that the criticism comes from the Sun. It came from people in his own party. It came from people watching the television. We reported on what people said. And you know, on Wednesday, we had David Cameron mocked up as a jelly on the front page. Because one of the things The Sun does is it tries to capture where the debate is. And when it came to Cameron, as I've said at the very beginning, it's not a plot about Corbyn. We think Cameron's position on the EU is ridiculous. We might talk about tax credits. We think the Tory party have shamed themselves as a party in their stance on tax credits. So while we do have disagreements with Corbyn and we do report on things in a colourful way, we picked up on stuff that people were saying, people in his own party and people watching on television, and that's what we did.
All right.